Hello, this is Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHD. I am a clinical psychologist, neuropsychologist, and the father of two ADHD kids, and I married into a family that is rich with ADHD people. Okay. All right, today I want to talk a little bit about the importance of family in the adaptation and adjustment of ADHD kids. Okay, I mean, we know that ADHD has a huge genetic component. That is, it runs in families. So you can't do much about that. But you can do a lot about whether or not your child successfully adapts and adjusts to ADHD. It's not a matter of luck, nor is it a matter of even a magic pill or some magic treatment. It is like most things. 80% of everything is psychological. Okay. That's not something I learned in grad school. That's something I've observed over the course of a fairly long life. And what we know is that what you do with what you get is more important than what you were born with. Okay. Andrew Coyle writes about a series of books about talent, and his main thesis is that there's really no such thing as talent. Genetics will get you a certain body type, and that will make it easier for you to, say, be successful in certain sports or become that's actually mostly it's about sports and what you inherit physically. For most of the rest of us, well, for most everybody, if you're born and your dad's 6'7" and you're going to be 6'10", yeah, okay, you're going to play basketball probably, and that's fine. But for most of us and most every other situation, even for 6'10" people, you have to work. You have to do the work to make your talent. I did it. I didn't mean to do that. To make your skill be up to the level of being able to, say, play in college or play professionally or that sort of thing. And that's the same with anything else. If you don't work at it, you don't get good at it. And you never get great at it. So if you have ADHD, you can adapt and adjust to it so you're very successful in whatever your chosen sphere is, whether you choose to be a designer or a artist or a musician or a CEO or an entrepreneur. All of those things are possible, but you have to do the work. And probably the thing that kills ADHDers most is, well, first of all, the big first thing is the late diagnosis. The second big thing is just never being taught or never learning to adapt and adjust to having ADHD. Okay, no matter what you do, you're going to have to adjust to having some problems with time blindness, and you're going to have some figure out what you're going to do with problems with working memory. Okay, but there's are relatively simple steps. There may be a little tedious to always have to write things down in your notebook or whatever, but they will allow you to be successful, to start a company or to get a good position in a company or persist in your music career and do concerts at Carnegie Hall or 250,000 people at some big athletic stadium. The deal is, though, you have to be able to do the work. And part of being willing and able to do the work is how your family handles things. The families that are reasonably successful help you develop executive functioning, self-regulation, your behavior, pretty much everything of that leads to success, knowing that success is more about resilience than it is brilliance. It's not so much what your IQ is, it's what your resilience is, what your ability to learn from mistakes is, how you adapt and adjust to pretty much everything is. And that's what's the most important thing. And that's what your family, by and large, teaches you from a very early stage. I mean, some of the worst things parents can do is, well, overparent, be real strict, real critical, real intrusive on you, and you'll have some difficulties. I mean, it's just when your family is high tension, high volume, you're going to have some troubles tolerating your own mistakes, and you're going to be taught that that's not tolerated. What you won't be taught is how to learn from your mistakes. So you just run around trying to avoid mistakes, and then when you make mistakes, you spend all your time slapping yourself on the side of the head, and I wish I hadn't done that. Dang, I screwed up. That's horrible. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? But what you want is ideally your parents are able to be involved with the child and be able to teach the child how to adapt and adjust, how to uh, work with the healthcare provider, how to uh, manage temper tantrums, how to manage, how your ADHD gets managed. I mean, that stuff affects the whole family, of course, and there are some things that just really cause difficulties for a family. Uh, Parenting style, I already mentioned that somewhat. Being real harsh and real critical and real intolerant of any ADHD behavior, basically. Then the other big one is maternal deprivation. For some reason, mom being depressed is more significant than dad being depressed. But um, I mean, I know in my own family, my wife probably um, had way more power and influence than I did. It's just one of those things when you're going off and doing stuff at work, you're not there to be supportive of the kids. And she did a great job. I'm totally impressed with her ability to do that. In spite of being a psychologist, I'm not so sure I would have been as good at being a parent, a day-to-day parent as she was. But the the next thing that is a big issue is marital conflict. And in this day and age, when what is it, 2/3 of all marriages are end in divorce, or maybe it's 50%, I don't know, but it's a bunch, way more than was current when I was a kid. Oh, my kid, you got married, you stayed married. There are probably a variety of reasons for that, but that is a big deal. So marital conflict and divorce arguments, big things, those all make it a huge problem for ADHDers to adapt and adjust and get the time and attention that they need uh, to become the best citizens they can become. It's when you think about a family, there's a thing called systems theory, and basically any group of people become a system. Whether it's a business or a family or even a couple, it becomes a system, and each individual in that system is affected by every other person in that system. Okay, this is okay. Mom and dad affect each other, and if they're not getting along well, that affects the children. Okay. So if you sit down at the table every night not knowing who's going to start screaming, uh, is it going to be mom or is it going to be dad? Or is dad the only one who does the screaming? Anyway, as you have to put up with that or have to adapt and adjust to that, and then that's hard to do for a kid, especially, if your parents are yelling and screaming at each other, uh, that puts a little more onus on you to, well, first of all, a lot of times kids think it's their fault. Even if they had nothing to do with the argument, they think it's their fault. They caused it. If I weren't such a bad boy, they wouldn't be arguing. And, of course, that's not fair to the kid, and it's not really good for his or her development. And that's the whole system thing, though. I mean, if you have four kids, well, let's say you have a family of four. Let's do it that way. Okay, how the parents get along is real important for how the children uh, adapt and adjust to life. How the kids get along affects the parents. If the kids are always fighting, trying to, one of them is trying to kick the other one into submission or that sort of thing, that has an impact on the parents. With an ADHD kid who's, forgetting stuff, can't get up in the morning, uh, takes his either doesn't do his homework, or when he does his homework, he forgets to turn it in, which used to amaze me. You open up the book bag and it's like, for crying out loud, you get 2 weeks worth of homework here. Why didn't you turn it in? Yeah, I don't know. But so every person affects every other person. And if, like one child has a physical disability, has a club foot or, I don't know, had a stroke at birth and is hemiparetic, that is half the side of his body or her body doesn't work very well, that affects the other kid because the kid who's handicapped has physically handicapped or physically challenged, as we are starting to use that kind of terminology. The other kid can't compete for parental attention because the kid with the handicap is always going to get the first attention, and sometimes that's a problem. Um, so and anything that happens to the family, to any member of the family, affects every other member of the family. I'm a firstborn child, and I can remember I saw a cartoon that seemed to, clarify my position in life. Basically, it was two parents and somebody who was probably a grandmother bending over a bassinet, and the older kid has come in and he's got a paper from school with an A+ on it, and the parents and the grandparent are not paying any attention to the kid with the A+ on his paper. And the cut line is, "Oh, look, he blew a bubble." So that was, if you're the oldest child, you probably have had that, why does everything she does or everything he does seem to get more attention than anything I do? Okay, so that's but that's the system. Now think about what that little boy with the A+ is going to be thinking when he goes up to his room. And he can't get any attention from anybody because his little brother or sister is so darn cute doing nothing. Um, and you've got to watch out as a parent because sometimes the cute kid or the little kid gets babied a little too much and doesn't realize that he has to work as hard as the older child to get results in the world. So that's think of it as a system, everything, and look at your system. Okay. Are you a calm parent, or are you an agitated, excited, angry parent rather? Are you and your wife, are you and your husband, I think I should just say you and your spouse, getting along well? Do you problem solve together in a calm voice, or is it always yelling, screaming? Are your kids getting along with each other? Is there one child that seems to be more attracted to mom and another child is more connected to father rather? And are both of them, or are both of them just attracted to one parent or the other? All kinds of changes. There's nothing necessarily good or bad about any of that except for the arguing part. But do you understand your how your system works? And it's best if it's a calm, logical system. It's best if there are rules and routines that are followed. If mom and dad are chaos parents, that is, oh, I don't know, I don't feel like cooking. Did I get something? Or, mom, can we order cheeseburgers? And that all that stuff that we didn't used to have when I was a kid. But do you set an example of a person who's calm and in control and gets the job done? And that involves some family routines. That involves some personal routines, and it also involves attention to the interactions. So when you and your spouse are communicating, or you and the children are communicating, is it a calm? I mean, I keep using calm. That's very important. If you lose control, yell and scream and jump up and down, for crying out loud, go for a walk. Get out of the house. Get away from people, because you aren't doing yourself or them any good at all with that particular pattern of behavior. So remember that. Remember, your family is a system. One piece affects all the other pieces. They're all going together. And you're only as good or as healthy as the weakest part of the system, and you can learn most of this stuff. Okay, there's nothing that says you have to be angry your whole life. There's nothing that says you have to be scared your whole life. If you have issues with that kind of stuff, see a therapist, see a coach, get some training in how to better maintain your core balance. And so those are important things, and those have an impact on you. They will have an impact on your kids, and it goes down the line. Fewer years than you think possible, you will have grandchildren, and you will see the same patterns of behavior with the grandchildren that you saw at home, because that's what gets passed down, and hopefully it's all good stuff. So think about this. Actually spend some time on it. Journal about it, write about it. Pay attention, observe what happens. What happens in my house that I really like a lot, and what happens in my house that I really don't like a lot. I really wish we could change that, because you can't. Okay? The first you have to be aware of it. Then you have to know how bad it is, which is basically just a fancy way of saying count it. Okay, you count it, you know how bad it is. We're having a temper tantrum every single day. That's bad. That's not easy on anybody. Okay, because you're upset, your spouse is upset, one of the kids at least is upset, and the other one, who may not be saying much, is also upset and maybe expressing it just quietly to himself or herself. Okay, so it's all a system of moving parts, like a very complicated engine. And one thing that affects any part of it affects all the other parts of it to some extent. And you are in charge. So you need to set up the systems you want in place and the routines you want in place, and just keep working on those. And of course, the next most important thing is the whole resilience thing. But you can't be resilient if you don't know how the system works. Okay, I am about out of time here, and we will catch you Catch you later, and do try some of this stuff. Do try some observations and some actually writing it down. It doesn't have to be real complicated. You can just do tick mark. Oh, you can shoot. You can use your day timer or whatever you use and just tick, you know, every time there's some negative event. And then just that gives you a lot more. Until you start to measure it, you don't really realize how big or how little it is. Okay, as I said when I started out, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. I'm also a coach, a high performance coach, and I uh, work a lot with ADHD. Um, apparently, I was supposed to because I married into it and perpetuated the cycle. Anyway, so on my website is my website is terrygingrassphd.com. You can sign up for freebie intakes for coaching, and I will catch you next week. And if you have any suggestions for things you'd like to hear me talk about, or don't quite understand something, give me a letter, send me an email, and we will chitty chat about it. Okay, we will catch you next time.